Let's get one thing straight. Nice is not a strategy for love. It's not a currency you can trade in for respect, commitment, or emotional investment. For too long, women have been conditioned to believe that if they're sweet enough, agreeable enough, selfless enough, then one day he'll wake up and finally see their worth. But that's not how it works. Being endlessly nice at the expense of your needs, your standards, your truth, doesn't win his heart. It erodes your self-worth. And more often than not, it leaves you stuck in relationships where you give everything and get breadcrumbs in return. This isn't about being cold. It's about being clear. It's about redefining the way you show up in your love life. Not to please, but to choose. Not to chase, but to invite. Not to be nice, but to be powerful. Let's talk about why being nice might be the very thing holding you back from the relationship you deserve. We need to talk about something that's been deeply misunderstood. The difference between being kind and being respected. So many women are taught from a young age to be agreeable, to keep the peace, to avoid conflict. You're told that if you're sweet, accommodating, and nice, people will like you more. And that somewhere down the line, this will translate into love, appreciation, and loyalty. But here's the truth no one told you. Being nice is not the same as being valued. In fact, constantly defaulting to being nice often leads to being overlooked, underestimated, or worst of all, taken for granted. When you make being nice your default, especially in dating or relationships, you unknowingly start to train the other person that your needs come second. You smile when you're uncomfortable. You say it's fine when it's absolutely not fine. You agree to things that you don't want to do just because you don't want to seem difficult. But every time you swallow your truth for the sake of keeping things smooth or keeping someone happy, you chip away at your own value. You teach him that your boundaries are flexible, your feelings are negotiable, and your presence is unconditional, regardless of how you're treated. Now think about the people you respect most, truly. Are they the ones who say yes to everything? Are they the ones who bend over backwards just to keep others happy? Probably not. We respect people who are grounded, who are kind, yes, but also clear, who say what they mean and mean what they say. People who don't seek approval because they already know their worth. That's the energy that commands respect. Not just being pleasant or agreeable, but standing in your truth with quiet confidence. And that's where many people get it wrong. They confuse being liked with being respected. They think if they're nice enough, soft enough, generous enough, they'll be loved more. But love without respect is hollow. It might look like affection on the surface, but it won't last. Because eventually the lack of mutual value will start to show. The imbalance will become too big to ignore. And often, by the time you realize it, you're already in too deep, giving more than you're getting, chasing after validation that should have been there from the start. The hard truth is this: if someone only values you when you're easy, quiet, or agreeable, they don't value you. They value what you do for them. That's not love. That's convenience. And you're not here to make someone else's life easier at the expense of your own. You're here to be chosen for who you truly are, not just for how well you play the role of the nice girl. So what do you do instead? You stop filtering yourself to keep a man comfortable. You stop over-apologizing for having needs. You stop agreeing just to avoid rocking the boat. Instead, you show up with kindness and strength. You communicate your truth even when it's uncomfortable. You say no when something doesn't sit right. You set boundaries and you keep them. And most importantly, you let your actions reflect your standards. Because respect, something you can beg for, it's something you teach people to give you by how you treat yourself. This doesn't mean becoming cold or rude. You don't have to swing to the other extreme. True power lies in being both kind and firm, open and unapologetic. It's in being warm but not a pushover, compassionate but not compromising your values. That balance is magnetic. That's what draws in a real connection. Not manipulation, not endless effort, not niceness. That erases who you are. And here's the beautiful part. The moment you stop needing to be liked all the time, you create space for genuine relationships. Because the people who are right for you, the ones who see you, will never be scared off by your boundaries. They'll respect you more for having them. They'll be drawn not to how agreeable you are, but to how authentic and self-assured you are. So if being nice is making you feel invisible, underappreciated, or emotionally drained, it's time to wake up. Your kindness is a gift, but it's not meant to be currency. It's meant to be shared with those who truly value it. And that starts with valuing yourself enough to stop confusing approval with love and start choosing respect over being liked every single time. There's a dangerous myth that's been sold for far too long. The idea that if you just give enough, love hard enough, and sacrifice constantly, a man will fall deeply in love with you. But the truth is, men don't fall in love with doormats. They don't fall in love with the woman who erases herself to make them feel comfortable. They fall for the woman who stands tall in her value, who doesn't try to earn love through self-abandonment, and who knows exactly what she deserves. You can be the most giving, thoughtful, generous person in the world. You can cook his favorite meals, support his dreams, drop everything when he calls, and still be left wondering why he's pulling away. And here's why. When there's no edge, no mystery, no sense that you have your own life, your own standards, and your own limits, the dynamic becomes unbalanced. You end up giving so much that there's no space for him to pursue you. He's not earning anything, you're just handing him all of yourself, no questions asked. Think about it like this. Attraction isn't just about chemistry. It's about challenge. Not games, but real emotional substance. A man is not drawn to someone who constantly proves her love through over-affectioning. He's drawn to someone who makes him step up. Someone who has a sense of self that doesn't depend on whether he calls, texts, or shows up the way she wants. When you overgive, especially early on, what you're actually doing is relieving him of the responsibility to show up for you. He doesn't have to try. He doesn't have to earn your effort, your energy, or your heart, because you've already given him everything. What keeps a man truly engaged is not your ability to serve him endlessly, but your willingness to walk away if he doesn't meet your standards. That's what makes you magnetic. It's not in how much you give, it's in how much you value yourself. A man falls for the woman who knows she's the prize, not the one, desperately trying to prove that she's worthy of being chosen. If you're always available, always forgiving, always adjusting yourself just to keep him happy, you're showing him that your love comes cheap, and no one values what they get for nothing. This doesn't mean you shouldn't be kind or supportive in a relationship, but support has to be mutual. Effort has to be reciprocated. Love has to be earned. When you overextend yourself to make a man feel comfortable while neglecting your own needs, you teach him that your love is unconditional, even when his actions don't deserve it. And that's a dangerous precedent to set. Somewhere along the way, many women learn to equate love with labor. The more you do, the more you prove your worth. But love doesn't work like that. Real lasting attraction is built when both people bring their full selves to the table, when there's mutual admiration, mutual effort, and mutual respect. Not when one person gives everything while the other coasts by. You may think you're showing loyalty or devotion, but if it's not being returned, it's not loyalty, it's self-neglect. And the man who truly sees your value will never want you to lose yourself just to keep him. He'll want to rise to your level. He'll want to give just as much as he receives. He'll be drawn not to your sacrifice, but to your strength. So if you find yourself constantly giving, constantly compromising, constantly trying to prove you're good enough, stop. Take a step back. Ask yourself, is this man even trying to meet you halfway? Has he shown you that he's deserving of all this effort? Or have you fallen into the trap of thinking love must be earned through endless giving? You are not meant to be someone's emotional crutch, caretaker, or unpaid therapist. You're not here to rescue a man or prove your value by how much of yourself you're willing to give up. The right man doesn't want a doormat. He wants a partner, someone who inspires him, challenges him, and holds him accountable. Someone who brings her full self to the relationship and expects the same in return. And if he doesn't want to rise to that, if he fades, withdraws, or makes you feel like you're asking for too much, let him go. Let him be free to find someone who expects nothing, gives everything, and demands little. But don't let that be you, because the woman who stands in her worth doesn't chase love. She attracts it by refusing to settle for anything less than she deserves. There is a powerful truth that too many people overlook. Saying no is one of the strongest forms of self-respect. It's not about being difficult or cold. It's not about being dramatic or playing games. It's about recognizing that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable. And protecting them is not just allowed, it's necessary. Far too often, women are conditioned to feel guilty for setting boundaries. You're taught that being loving means being endlessly available, always saying yes and keeping others happy, even when it costs you your peace. But here's the reality: the ability to say no when something doesn't serve you is a mark of emotional maturity and deep self-worth. When you constantly say yes to things you don't want, you end up betraying yourself. Whether it's agreeing to plans you have no interest in, tolerating behavior that makes you uncomfortable, or staying in conversations that drain your energy, every unspoken no turns into silent resentment. And that resentment doesn't just affect the relationship, it chips away at your confidence. It sends a message to your subconscious that your needs don't matter, that your comfort comes second, and that other people's approval is more important than your truth. But here's what's even more important to understand. The people who truly care about you, the ones who respect you, won't be threatened by your no. They won't shame you, guilt you, or punish you for having limits. In fact, your no will earn their respect, because when someone sees that you're not afraid to protect your space, they realize that your yes actually means something. It's not automatic. It's intentional. It's real. There's this fear that saying no will make you look selfish or unkind. But selfishness isn't about taking care of your well-being. It's about taking from others without care for their needs. What you're doing when you say no isn't selfish, it's self-honoring. And until you start honoring yourself, no one else will. If you keep overextending yourself just to make other people comfortable, you'll eventually burn out, grow bitter, and lose your sense of identity. That's not love. That's self-abandonment. Think about how often you've agreed to something just to avoid confrontation. How many times have you said it's fine when it wasn't? How many moments have you given your time, your body, your energy, your attention, not because you wanted to, but because you didn't want to upset someone else? Every one of those moments is a missed opportunity to show up for yourself. And the longer you do it, the more it becomes a pattern. One that teaches others that they can push your boundaries without consequence. But here's the truth. The most powerful version of you isn't the one who says yes to everything. It's the one who knows her limits, communicates them clearly, and sticks to them, even when it's uncomfortable. That's real strength. It's not in how much you can tolerate, but in how firmly you can stand in your truth. A strong woman doesn't sacrifice her peace just to keep a man interested. She doesn't agree to less than she deserves because she's afraid to lose someone. She knows that losing herself is far worse. What saying no also does is create space. When you say no to the wrong things, you make room for the right ones. When you say no to poor treatment, you make room for respect. When you say no to emotional chaos, you make room for peace. Every boundary you set is an invitation for someone to treat you better, and a filter for those who never intended to. And let's be honest, if someone walks away because you told them no, they were never there for you in the first place. They were there for what they could get from you. That's not a loss, that's clarity. Because the people who are meant to be in your life won't be scared off by your boundaries. They'll rise to meet them. They'll value your honesty. They'll be grateful that you respect yourself enough to draw the line, because it means you'll respect them enough to hold them to the same standard. So don't apologize for your no. Don't over-explain it. Don't soften it to make others more comfortable. Stand in it with grace and certainty. That one word, spoken from a place of self-awareness, can change the course of your relationships. Because when you start saying no to what drains you, disrespects you, or diminishes you, you're saying yes to the version of yourself who refuses to settle. And that version of you, she doesn't beg for love. She attracts it by showing the world exactly what she's no longer willing to tolerate. There's a mindset shift that changes everything in your love life. Stop trying to be chose and start doing the choosing. So many women fall into the trap of constantly wondering, does he like me? Is he going to call? Am I good enough for him? And without realizing it, they hand over all their power. They step into every interaction as if it's an audition, as if they need to prove that they're lovable, worthy, interesting enough to hold his attention. But here's the truth. The moment you place a man on a pedestal and hope he picks you, you've already forgotten your own value. You're not here to earn love through effort. You're not a contestant in someone else's game. You are not supposed to wait quietly to be selected like you're some prize in a shop window. You are the one doing the selecting. And when you internalize that truth, you stop tolerating anything that doesn't meet your standards. You stop chasing potential. You stop excusing red flags. You stop ignoring how you feel just to keep someone around who hasn't even shown you that he deserves a place in your life. Attraction is not about convincing someone to want you, it's about revealing who you are and letting the wrong people filter themselves out. When you try too hard to be liked, you end up betraying your authenticity. You start hiding your true thoughts, your real desires, and your natural energy just to fit into what you think someone else wants. But the irony is, people don't fall for masks, they fall for what's real. And if you don't believe that you're the one with the power to choose, you'll keep trying to mold yourself into someone who can get chosen. And that performance will never bring you peace. The real power begins when you walk in to a date, a relationship, or a conversation and ask yourself, do I like this person? Do I feel safe, respected, seen? Does this person's behavior align with what I need in a partner? That mindset flips everything because you stop attaching your self-worth to someone else's interest. Whether or not he calls again doesn't define your value. Whether or not he chooses you doesn't mean you're not enough. It just means you're no longer wasting time on someone who wasn't aligned with what you deserve. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or cold. It means you start seeing yourself clearly. You understand that your attention is precious, your energy is sacred, and your heart is not something that should be handed over to just anyone. When you start doing the choosing, you raise the bar not out of pride, but out of self-awareness. And suddenly, the dynamic changes. You're no longer the one waiting for validation. You become the one who evaluates, who watches what someone does, not just what they say, who takes your time before you invest emotionally, and who's willing to walk away the moment someone shows they're not capable of the relationship you're looking for. One of the most attractive qualities you can embody is self-assurance. It's not about being hard to get, it's about being hard to fool. When a man senses that you're not impressed by charm alone, that he has to show up with consistency, effort, and respect, he realizes that your love is something he has to earn, not through manipulation, not through games, but by being real, being present, and showing that he can meet you where you are. And let's be honest, not everyone will rise to meet you. That's okay. That's the point. Because when you're doing the choosing, the ones who can't meet your standards won't last long. You'll stop wasting time on lukewarm connections, mixed signals, and empty promises. You won't chase clarity from someone who only offers confusion. You'll simply let go and move forward, knowing that the right one won't need convincing. There's peace in knowing that you no longer have to perform to be loved. There's freedom in realizing that your role in love isn't to compete, impress, or beg, but to observe, decide, and choose what aligns with your truth. When you lead with that mindset, you become the kind of woman who doesn't chase love. You become the woman who magnetizes it because your energy says, I know who I am, and I'm not afraid to walk away from anything that doesn't see my value. So stop trying to be chosen. The right person will choose you effortlessly, not because you worked so hard for it, but because you stood in your worth and refused to settle for anything less. That's the energy that builds real love. That's the power of choosing yourself first.